Right, we go to item 8, which is the proposed allotment site north of Gilden Park, pages 6 to 20. Who's doing that?
Me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so this application proposes the erection of up to 58 sheds and 60 greenhouses to serve the existing Gilden Park allotment. The location plan, you can see the application site with the red boundary, the nearest residential properties to the south, Woodlark Road and open greenbelt land to the north. This is an aerial image where the allotments haven't been fully laid out yet, but you can see the site there. These site photos show mainly, well, in the top left and bottom right, the northern boundary of the site with open greenbelt land beyond, and then bottom left and top right is looking south-east towards the nearest residential properties. This is now from the southern boundary, so from Woodlark Road looking north into the site. And this group of photos show the relationship with those nearest properties on Woodlark Road, and you've got obviously a buffer of landscape to the boundary fence, and then the road, and then the front elevations of those properties. So this is the original master plan drawing from 2017. You can see the 29 allotment plots laid out there. This is the allotment lease plan. So again, you can see the red line around the application site. I suppose this is the most important drawing for this application because it shows the proposed layout of the sheds and greenhouses, with the sheds shown in blue and the greenhouses slightly larger there in green. And you can see the original 29 plots have been subdivided into two to allow more people access to an allotment. So making it 58 smaller plots. This slide is just to show the position of footpath 35 because the Highway Authority referred to that and proposed an informative just to make sure there's no impact on this, but you can see that it just runs to the east of the site, so the proposal wouldn't impact that footpath. This is now some additional information received from the applicant just to help illustrate what the proposed sheds and greenhouses might look like. This is the same site plan again, just with the plots marked on, but the size of the sheds and greenhouses will be restricted to a maximum floor area of 6 feet by 4 feet for sheds, with a maximum height of 8 feet. So there's no particular restriction on the design or materials other than those dimensions. So, for example, there might be timber or plastic, so they can potentially look different. There's some more examples of the sheds. As I say, greenhouses can be slightly larger at 8 feet by 6 feet, but again with a maximum height of 8 feet. And this is not only do we have a restrictive condition proposed to secure that, but it's also written into the tenancy agreement for any allotment holder as well. Again, just some images of potential greenhouse examples. These are just notes from the applicant saying that there may be different designs. So on to the key issues. The site is in the greenbelt. However, buildings for allotments are not inappropriate development where the openness of the greenbelt is preserved, and the single-storey nature of the proposed sheds and greenhouses is such that the openness would be preserved. Design, character and appearance is considered to be acceptable. There will be the uniform layout down the centre of the site with the restriction on the maximum floor area and height. It's important to note that there's likely to be an incremental addition of the sheds and greenhouses. They won't all suddenly go up at once, and indeed some plot holders may not choose to erect either building. So it'll be a gradual, the buildings will be gradually introduced. Residential amenity, it's considered there wouldn't be an unacceptable impact on the nearest residential properties in terms of loss of light outlook or overbearing impact, again, because there's a good separation distance of at least 20 metres to the front elevations of the nearest properties, and obviously the buildings are no higher than 8 feet. The tree officer was consulted and is happy that there will be no impact on existing trees. So moving to the recommendation, that is to grant planning permission subject to 3 conditions, which are the time limit of 3 years, restriction on the maximum footprint and height of each building, and the approved plans condition. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Just two things. One is, who owns the land? Is it Harlow District Council or is it the builders?
It's been handed over now from the developer to the Gilden Park Residents Association. So the handover took place in February of this year.
So they're responsible for the land.
Yes.
The other thing is it fenced all the way round for security?
Yes, it is all the way around.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first one is the obvious question. There are 58 allotments, so possibly 58 sheds, but 60 greenhouses. So what's going on with the other 2 greenhouses?
I can show you that on this drawing. So if you see on what's labelled as 30 and 31, we've got the existing containers there which hold the communal tools for use by plot holders. But so potentially the greenhouses could go in those positions where there's raised beds to be used by less mobile people, as I understand it. So that's where the additional greenhouses would go in those positions.
Thank you. And as you've told us or reminded us, there is no control over how the sheds will appear, what colour they will be, what material will be used. So it will be a motley, possibly, assemblage of sheds, as is usually the case on allotments. So that will not present any sort of detriment to those people who may be slightly worried. They're probably not terribly worried, as in visual amenity, because they'll be far enough away and there's a bit of greenery in between. So, and it's also up to each, as you reminded us to, each allotmentier, apparently that's the term that is used, allotmentier, to decide whether they want a shed and or a greenhouse. It's entirely their decision, and also their decision as to when they actually introduce one or both. Sorry, I realise that I've actually distracted you from the question bit of that.
Well, yeah, you're right that the designs can be different, but they are required to be located in that kind of central line, so in from the side boundaries, and obviously limited in terms of the maximum height and dimensions. So yeah, as you rightly say, it's quite common for there to be different designs on an allotment, but the control is there in terms of the dimension and height and layout.
Yes.
Chair, just to ask, we've set a time limit of 3 years on this. Obviously, they're going to come on in stages. Is there a potential that we could hit that 3 limits before all plots have been allocated, assigned and that? Is that going to cause a problem?
So the time limit relates to the implementation. So the way it would work is once the first building is erected, the permission is essentially saved for people to add over time, so it wouldn't expire then. So the idea being that we don't have to have multiple applications in the future for more. So yeah, assuming one is put up within the 3 years, then the permission will be saved for future.
Really, just a few words, honestly, I promise. This is a really interesting application, at least I found it so. I found it, and still do, refreshing. I love it, love it, love it. But surely an allotment of any kind is incomplete without a shed. There has to be a shed. Okay, a greenhouse is maybe a nice to have, maybe, but a shed is an essential, surely. So that's where you keep your tools and keep them nice and clean and gleaming. All the essentials are in there, a folding seat possibly of some kind, it's a refuge. And we know that allotments add a lot to the community. A little community often forms there. There's a network. It's, I think it's a really healthy experience for all of those who are involved. And in there will be a flask, I'm sure, with some tea or coffee or something. Let's not explore that too deep. Maybe even a bit of cake and some biscuits. So there are so many benefits in all of this. I've said here, other allotmenteers, because members of my family have allotments. And one bit of the family isn't content with one allotment. They now have two. And they send photographs of themselves working the soil, the ground, planting things, making the rest of us feel guilty. We're just not doing enough. We should be out there digging. Anyway, especially if there are potatoes involved, obviously. And anything you grow in an allotment always tastes better, doesn't it, Sue? It always tastes better, whether it's a potato or a bean or a tomato or whatever it is. It's just a glorious thing. So obviously we're going to accept this. We're going to agree. We may even cheer at the end.
Well, Chairman, I'm really delighted that this has come to our day planning now. The residents in that area have waited such a long time to get this on board, and to think that it's actually in front of us now. Hopefully they don't take 3 years before it's constructed, because I know the people are anxious to get on with their sites. And as a ward councillor, I'm delighted that it's actually come to us today. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Saggers.
Thank you, Chair. It comes at, I think, at the right time, because obviously at last night's scrutiny committee, one of the task and finish scripts that we planned in January 26 is to look at allotments, and Councillor Ingalls was a big champion of the fact of there is out there now best practice, and obviously elevating that, and this comes on at the right time to give the blueprints of what's best practice. We've obviously set out some key things in decision making about size and shape of things going on there, to help make this new one of the flagships, and then obviously look at what else is going on in Harlow, and obviously it's health and well-being, and mental health for the people who are on there. It can only be a good thing.
Anybody else? No? Well, I can only agree with Councillor Livins and Councillor Saggers. You know, allotments are a good thing, aren't they? Health and well-being, apart from the produce you grow, if you can hang on to it, you know. And I do know the site because I walk the dog at the adjoining lane, the one that's highways are worried about, or could be worried about. So, so we'll go straight to the vote. Then it's the recommendation to grant, and then it's on page 17. All those in favour? Agreed. Thank you very much. Unanimous.